Hi there. Welcome to a new video. Yes, there's a piece of paper. Yes, you can see my hands. Therefore, this is a doodling and drawing and talking type video. So today, I just want to briefly touch upon a concept or an idea which I think writers are forgetting. This is a writer's episode, and it's this: 4 pages. Really important that we start thinking about stories in chunks of 4 pages. I've had 2 anthology submissions come through that I'm working on, and both of them are 10-page stories. And I've done them, but I can see that being a real problem, and it's probably the reason why editor probably hates you. So let's talk about it, shall we? Let's expand this, shall we? Okay. So I'm just going to grab let's grab a comic that I can show you. What have we got? Oh, this one will do. Space Crash, issue 1, which you can still get. So let's talk about page numbering, shall we? Let's go see if I can find any post-it notes. Yes, I've got some post-it notes. Right. Let's put some post-it notes on. Let's number them. So if we imagine that our front cover is page 1. Our inside cover is page 2. And the first page of our story is page 3. Okay? 2 things we need to think about here. 1, our story starts on an odd numbered page. 2, the big page turn, i.e. this big page turn, is on an odd numbered page, right? So, for example, end of this page is the perfect point to put a big cliffhanger, right? As we go down to the bottom of the page, there is some suspense because we're at the bottom of the page, but it's resolved almost instantly the second our eyes flick over. We get to the bottom of the page. What happens next? Turn the page, find out, don't we? Or maybe we don't. So, odd numbered pages, really important. They're the ones where your story can start. They're the ones where you have your big important page turns. Okay, let's get this comic out of the way. Let's get back. So imagine you're an editor of a comic book anthology, and let's imagine that you have got a number of stories. So let's think how many stories we want. Maybe let's say there are 4 stories. Let's just write this down. And each one is, for example, 4 pages. How's that going to work for us? Well, start off here. Here's our front cover. Here's our inside cover. And here's our page. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth, right? Well, this is the start of story 1. And it's 4 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the start of story 2. Okay? Well, okay with this so far. This is great because it means our stories all start with start off with a big page turn. In effect, each one is start its own story, right? So far, so good. What happens if, for example, you start having 10-page stories or 2-page stories or heaven forfend 1-page stories? Throws all of this out. This all goes out the window. Now, when you're drawing your story, you don't know exactly where in the book you're going to go. And to be fair, the editor probably doesn't know because they don't have all the stories in. The editor will get all the stories in, and looking at the stories, getting a feel for how they flow together, they will then curate a sort of content order. It makes their job really difficult if you have odd numbered pages or even numbered pages. If you get my story, if you get my drift. So let's do another one. Here's our front cover. Cover page 1. Now our first story for this one is a straightforward 4-page story. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 4. Next story is a 5-page story. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our next story, you are forcing that person to have, in effect, a double-page spread. There, 1, 2. It gets worse because if they submit a 4-page story, then every subsequent story in the book opens on a double-page spread. That's a real problem, especially if you don't know this. What you can generally sort of bank on is that your story should start on an even number of on another page. Sorry. So what happens if you have? So what happens if you do have stories like this? Well, I think an editor is then going to have the work cut out for them. God, I'm really burning through the paper on this one, aren't I? So let's look at this again. Front cover, inside cover, and page 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're saying a 5-page story. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. Editor now needs a 1-page story here, and then the next story can then start here. So you have so that's story 1, story 2. This is story 3, and this is story 4. That's with a submission of a 5-page story. What about if someone submits like a 7-page story? You've still got to find those. What about if someone submits a 2-page story? This is where it gets really confusing, because now the 2-page story would work here, but this is all based on the assumption that someone has submitted a 5-page story. This is a real headache for editors. I think if I was an editor, this would be a nightmare, because instead of me trying to curate 10 or 12 really good stories, I'm now looking for what can I use to fill these page gaps. I've got a 5-page story, I need something to fill this gap. It's either going to be a 1-page story or some concept art, or we start putting like header pages in between stories. That may work, although that's artificially inflating our page count, and that's another problem. 5-page stories, 10-page stories, 7-page stories, they don't help the page counts. They make it more difficult for the editor to fill a decent page count, and B, it means that they're scrabbling around for everything at the end. So they'll be out. The call will go out for stories to be submitted to anthologies, and submissions will come, and then probably about 3 months or 2 months before the deadline, the call will come out again for 1 or 2-page stories. But the editor's having to work twice as hard just to put together some books. So I urge everyone who's writing comic, going to go to print, to think in fours, right? Think in multiples of 4. I mean, think of it this way. Let's get our original sheet of paper. Here's a sheet of paper. Most comic books, some comic books are folded into 8 and they chop them. But at least with 4 pages, you've got a chance. Look, 1 sheet of paper. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pages. It's 1 extra sheet of paper. I believe in print terms it's called a round. So yes, if you've got a 10-page story, if you have a 7-page story, think about, I've got a 7-page story. Can I add an extra page to make it 8 pages? I've got a 10-page story. Can I drop a few pages to make it 8, or can I add a few to make it 12? These are good questions to ask, especially when you've got your script. So yeah, that's it. Think about 4 pages. Think about 8 pages. Keeping it consistent. Because let's face it, if I had an 8-page story, yeah, let's go back to our original perfect layout, right? Imagine we get rid of that. 8, 7, 12. See that? Just about. So let's imagine our first story now is 8 pages. Therefore, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where story 2 starts. So 4, 8, 12, 16 if you're crazy enough. These are good page counts for stories to be submitted to anthologies. So next time you're writing your anthology script, have a look at the page count, how many pages you've got written in the script, and ask yourself, can I chop some pages out, or can I add a page to get a page count that's divisible in some way by 4? Yeah. Anyway, I hope this helps. Next video, I don't know what we're going to be doing next video. Things are pretty hectic here. We're halfway through the penultimate page of the latest anthology submission, and then I'm doing some penciling work. So yeah, it's very busy. What else I can show you? In other news, Space Crash issue 4 is pretty much written. Space Crash issue 3 will go into production very, very soon. So if you found this useful, found it interesting, you know, sort of rock the bell up that corner there somewhere for notifications, and don't forget to like, follow, subscribe and share and all of that good stuff. Okay, I think I've talked enough now. Alright, see you later. Right. Bye.